If Top Gun Maverick gave you a hankering for more aviation movies, this was your chance to go see Devotion. I didn't see it. Angelina, you did. And just for the record, Top Gun for most people was this uplifting, almost vaguely patriotic, but not explicitly movie. It was this thing that tied people together and real feel good, positive movie about like teamwork and trying to, accomplish something. Was this that? Was because some people are going to look at this and think, oh, I already saw Top Gun Maverick. I don't need to see another one.
Um, so I wouldn't say that it's the same. It's
Okay.
based off of a true story, which makes it more heartbreaking. The movie's a little slow to start, but I cried for the last 30 minutes of it. And
Oh my
it
God.
takes, yeah, straight, 30 minutes straight. And I wasn't the only one in the group of my family that went to go see it. Half of us cried for the last 30 minutes. So
So take us through the story a little bit. What are we dealing with here?
yeah, so essentially, Jonathan Majors plays a true life Navy pilot, Jesse Brown. The movie is based off of a book based off of Jesse's real life. The storyline is really incredible. He was one of the first and only American Navy Black pilots. The story really plays into that, and in general, just the amount of racism, just blatant, like trying to push him out throughout the whole of it. And the character really plays into that. And he even holds like a book of all of these awful things that people have said to him.
Wow.
You experience racism like in the movie and everything that he is fighting for, but how he has to really be so much more different and reined in than all of his other pilots in his troop. So it all in all, like the movie touches on a lot of incredible points. It seems very historically accurate. It doesn't try to paint like a cuter picture of what his story was. Um, Comparing it to the real story, it does romanticize it a little bit more, but all in all, it's pretty spot on.
It reminds me a little bit of what happened with the Marilyn Monroe movie earlier this year,
Yeah.
Blonde, which we said was not a literal biography of her life, but there was some hearsay. There was a novel written about those rumors. And then the movie was this dramatic adaptation of that. Was this, do you think, that
This,
far afield?
no, this is actually, and I did some research about it too. It's pretty spot on, other than like two specific areas in which like those things didn't happen. One of them in which is like in the movie, Jesse Brown meets Elizabeth Taylor, but
Hmm.
in real life, they're actually at the same casino together, and he does experience a situation in which the French bartender will not serve him because he's Black. But it's apparently in the movie, like in the movie, he left and they went to this other like cute romantic little French bar.
Yeah.
But in real life, I guess there was like an actual physical confrontation inside of the casino, which they skipped over.
Hmm.
Um, but there was like a confrontation at the bar in which some like white American sailors are start a fight with the troop.
Aside
So
from, so it's good to see that they actually covered that,
yeah,
and gave it an authentic representation of what that experience was like. What other themes, what other, I mean, why would anybody want to go see this if they didn't want to
I
cry for
would
30 minutes?
say that the if I would have known I was going to cry for 30 minutes, I would not have gone to see it. I'll be honest. Um, in general, I would say that it is wildly patriotic. It is talking about a war that has been essentially forgotten, and therefore the heroes of that war have been essentially forgotten. It speaks to a storyline in which is incredibly relevant. There were so many African Americans that served in the US naval force and just the American military overall that have essentially been forgotten about and not spoken of. And so I think the story is incredible in the sense that it really highlights that, and it doesn't downplay the situation, but it also allows a real life hero to sort of be remembered in a way that I think is really important.
Those wonderful. I mean, it's always great to remind people what kind of sacrifices people make to go to war, to celebrate those stories of everybody who volunteers to do that. And back then, when that was a real statement to make, especially as a Black American, to say, I'm fully invested in the well-being of my country, and that's often a way that some of them gained respect and made friends among the other soldiers. So wonderful to see that. Some of these shots are beautiful. In terms of just the visual spectacle, like this looks like it had a lot to offer.
Overall, the filming was beautiful. I would say the shots are beautiful. Biggest issue I had with this is that I feel like they knew that the storyline was bulletproof, and so they just went hog wild on the casting, which was not
really
good.
What problems did you have there?
So I think Glenn Powell and Jonathan Majors were a good fit. They, in general, Jonathan Majors, I think even maybe he chose to do that as a character sort of defining situation, but he didn't connect well with anybody on screen. Like his wife, Daisy is a character name. There's something off between their chemistry. Like, it's just not.
And you don't think that was a deliberate choice, an acting choice?
And that's honestly, as I'm sort of like ruminating on it more, because he had the same issue with Glenn Powell, I'm like, maybe it was a character choice.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it also could be a casting thing. Like,
sometimes it's hard to break that stuff down because there's plenty of bad directors. There's some people, we never see the cuts that, the takes that make it onto the cutting room floor. And if other choices might have been made, or sometimes you direct actors differently so that they have different objectives into the scene and they don't even know. And so we're trying to capture that dissonance. But
and I think my biggest issue too is just like the names they put in the movie. For what reason? Like, their characters did not add to the story whatsoever.
Names like,
we have Darren Kazgasov, I guess is his last name. I don't even remember his last, I can't say it, but I haven't seen him on anything since Secret Life of an American Teenager, which I'm pretty sure ended when I was like 14, 13.
Okay. Yeah.
We're talking like 13 years. He looks great, but I don't know why he was in this movie. Like, his pilot attitude of his character was just like, what the hell? Like, why are you here? Joe Jonas is in this movie. I don't know if they allowed him to be in the movie because they wanted him to write a song, or he demanded to write a song for the movie album as a part of being cast. Like, I don't know why they were in this movie. Like, I feel like they put so much emphasis on these names, but I don't know why they were there.
Like I said before, I think names are a real problem with, they think it's a marketing solution. And at the end of the day, they have something that is not a quality performance. But
then on top of that, I feel like they should have actually just spent more money on marketing, because the movie storyline is incredible. And if I hadn't have seen this movie, I would have never known about Jesse Brown.
Sure. Well, talking about the marketing budget and just the numbers in general, Dan, what are we looking at here in terms of the reception, the costs?
Yeah, I was just looking at the Rotten Tomatoes score, which I have up on the screen. It doesn't have a ton of reviews. It's got like 76 reviews right now from critics, and it's like over 250 for the audience, and the audiences love it. I mean, Angelina, you said you cried toward the end of the movie, which can, unless it was like, oh my God, why did I come to see this movie? Bad cry, unless it's that, I can only imagine that's a good reaction. So
it's it's a heartbreaking movie that speaks to like a really incredible story and someone who gave his life for his country because he knew that that was the only thing he ever wanted to do. It's really incredible.
And to add to that, look, I back in high school I did some research because I was working on this big documentary video project on the Korean War, and learning about how it is truly the forgotten war. It's
Yeah.
uh-oh, sorry, my computer's going off. Give me one sec. But basically, to me, the thing that I learned was, it was people coming from the Vietnam War, like the veterans were treated pretty badly because of the political like ramifications of how the war played out and why it
Yeah.
began and all that jazz. But for the Korean War, it was even worse. Like you have people who just were forgotten about. And not to mention, if you're just talking about veterans in general, I mean, if you're an African American veteran, you probably took the worst of it. So to me, like a movie like this tells a story of not only a forgotten war, but the forgotten hero of a forgotten war. And
Well,
regardless of
even
whether you're
speaking to
patriotic or
that
not, it's a good human
more,
story.
am I allowed to give away the ending a little bit or no?
I mean, it
Absolutely.
is a spoiler review.
It's a spoiler
Okay,
review.
yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
sorry,
Also,
guys.
it's history.
So what goes into that, exactly what you're saying, Daniel, is that Jesse Brown was never brought home. Like he crashed. Glenn Powell's character, Tom Hudner, who was his wingman, crash landed his plane in order to try to save Jesse Brown, and Jesse Brown was stuck, bled out in the plane, and they never brought his body home. Which, if the biggest thing about the American military is that they're always supposed to bring them home, even if it's posthumously. Still to this day, Jesse Brown, like Tom Hudner's family is still trying to excavate and find his body to bring him home. They never brought him home. And those efforts were only restarted in 2013, which is insane.
That is hard. That, like you said, that is absolutely heartbreaking because that's just not cool. I mean,
No,
for lack
and
of a better word,
makes me emotional talking about it now. It was so sad. Like, it was so heartbreaking. But as far as the character arcs, like, I think Glenn Powell and Jonathan Majors both did a great job. Jonathan Majors is definitely the lead character up until Jesse Brown dies, which is about 70% through the movie, which is earlier than I anticipated, right? Like, I was just like,
Sure.
Wait, he's dead? He just died. And so that was shocking for me, but they played it so, I mean, the movie it's a good movie. It's really sad.
It sounds like
of like some of the smaller characters is not good.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like this is a full meal of a movie, and it commits to the reality of the history. And it really, I mean, just looking at some of these stills, this looks like something compelling to watch with a story that matters.
Everyone that I watched it with, I went and watched it with the family. Everyone loved it. Half of them did cry. And then one of my really good family friends, he's actually a retired U.S. naval veteran, and he said that it was all spot on as far as like the way they handled it.
Better.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, go see it. Tell us what you think. Comment right here and let us know if you agree or if you disagree or, anything else if that's on your mind.
If I could add to that a little bit.
Sure.
This movie was made for $90 million. It's currently made $9 million on its opening weekend box office. And I think a story like this, especially when you mentioned they've only just started recent years to the efforts to bring his body back. Go support this movie. Like, get the message out there. Like, let's raise the awareness because that's the only way we can choose to remember, or for people who are not even aware that this story, this person existed and what they did. I think these are the kinds of movies that we should support. There, and then we will get more movies like this because I think we should be looking for movies like this.
The casting director should be fired, but like everything else, great.